Friends, Brickey here with an update of everything new that's happening this month at DCA. We have the Lunar New Year getting ready to kick off, construction projects all around us, and a couple of big questions I have for you, like, is Disney fully leaning into the cash system where a spot like Blue Sky Cellar is now only going to be available to DVC members and not to the rest of us? We'll get to that later, but first, let's take a lap around DCA and look at everything new that's happening this month. Brickey here. It's your January update for Disney's California Adventure. Let's go. We have officially hit that slow season where if you get here at rope drop, the park is basically yours. And why wouldn't it be? Disneyland is closing at 10 o'clock tonight. DCA is closing to 9. Make sure you watch my Everything That's Closed video for the month of January, as there's some very restrictive park hours happening for this off season of January. Friends, we've hit that moment, that time of the year where there is nothing to celebrate other than coming to the park itself. And with the Pixar celebration that's on the horizon, I would just like to say that I think that this would have been the perfect spot for that Pixar sculpture that will be going in the middle of the town square area of Main Street, USA. I feel like that Pixar sculpture, if I'm being polite, best fits here and doesn't read the room of the overall vibe and aesthetic of Main Street, USA. I'm sure a designer somewhere worked really hard on it within the constraints they were given. Not a fan of it, not a fan of how it's going to fit into Main Street, USA, but could be convinced that this is the proper home for that piece that's coming later on this year. And in an interesting move, I feel like they did a press release for that sculpture just to get us prepared that it's coming. One has to wonder, is this the year that finally something gets mentioned for the Hollywood backlot? I've pretty much given up on Tomorrowland. I'll be dropping a video that will show you all the proof that I have that Disney as well has also given up on Tomorrowland. But I have to ask, is the Hollywood backlot, Hollywood studios out here on the West Coast, is this the year where they finally tell us something is going to happen? Or is it another year of twiddling the thumbs and looking the other way and ignoring that this land is absolutely broken? Currently right now, Monsters Inc. is down, making zero reason for anybody to go into the Hollywood backlot, especially when people that live here are not enamored by Hollywood because we live inside the real thing. Friends, we find Disney's California Adventure in a moment of transitioning as we are waiting for Lunar New Year to kick off on January 23rd and running till February 18th. This is the first big event taking place at DCA this year. This entire area all around me will transform over into the main hub of the Lunar New Year celebration, but it does trickle out over into San Fransokyo and down the performance corridor. If you look behind me, Disneyland has erected two huge bases, which I believe will be the base for an overall archway that will let guests know when they've officially walked into the Lunar New Year Festival. Those things are big, so get ready to see people slowing down, trying to figure out where they're supposed to go and what they're supposed to do. Because as we all know, people have a very hard time making a decision while walking. Do I go straight? Do I go left? Do I go right? The seas are parting and I don't know which part is mine to take. So get ready for this big opening to let you know when you're inside of the festival, but also get ready for that to slow people down, not only because of the obstructions, but because you got to get that sick pick. Lunar New Year affects DCA in the following ways. It adds a lot of traffic to this back corner of the park. If you're anywhere else in the park, you typically don't notice that it's happening, except for the parade that goes down the performance corridor a couple of times each day. It's a really nice small cavalcade that adds a festive vibe to DCA, and it's something that I welcome. But keep in mind that if you come into the back corner of the park, it is overly congested, as the food lines do take up a lot of space and bring in a lot of guests. But running from January 23rd to February 18th, it's not a long amount of time, it's just the right amount of time to add a little something special at the Disneyland Resort during this time of the year that can be a little depressing when all the glitter and magic has faded away until next season. And don't forget, strangely, right when the Lunar New Year kicks off, the emotional whirlwind will be going down for its annual maintenance. This is something that happens every time this year. Little odd though to take down a quick low stakes kids ride right on the edge where mom and dad are probably wanting to have a couple of drinks and enjoy some snacks. Interesting timing for sure, and with Little Mermaid now being on Lightning Lane, not really a quick place to divide and conquer while one of you gets the food and the other one entertains the children. Someone please consider the children. And now sounds like a great time to remind you, subscribe to the channel. I'm working really hard to give you 3 well-curated videos each and every week, taking you into the design, the story, the business, the overall editorial point of view of what is happening at the park, so you and I can have a conversation about the past, present, and future of Disneyland. And I can't do it without you, because this channel is a relationship between the two of us. I love to come here and film and tell all these stories, but if you're not here, I'm just a tree falling in the woods with no one to hear. Subscribe to Hey Brickey, go on the journey with me, and I appreciate you. Friends, I have given San Fransokyo a glowing review in 2023's transformation from the Pacific Wharf over to San Fransokyo. However, I was a little bit let down that during the holiday season, we didn't see new holiday decorations pop up in San Fransokyo. I thought this land had the potential to go over the top for the holiday season. And now that we're entering the Lunar New Year, I'm curious to see how hard will San Fransokyo go for the Lunar New Year, or will they just kind of keep it the same because it's already adjacent to that design? I am fascinated to see what the transformation of San Fransokyo looks like for its first ever Lunar New Year, and that's coming up real soon. Friends, as I keep trying to differentiate Hey Brickey from all your many other Disney content creator selections over here on YouTube, I have taken ride closures and removed those from the weekly update series. At the beginning of each month, you can see my Everything That's Closed video, where I have one video to go through and to give you all of the different information that you need to know how to plan your next trip, knowing what attractions will be closed, when they're reopening, and what the hours are for that month, special events, all the things you need to plan around. I want the update series to be more of an editorial series where I'm walking you through the park, showing you what's different, and having a conversation with you about how these things will affect not only your next trip, but the overall Disneyland story, which, as you know, is my favorite part of doing all of this. Grizzly River Rapids is closed, but if you watch my other series, you already knew that at the beginning of the month. We can see that they have drained out the water from the attraction, which is something they do every year to properly treat the water and to be able to go in and do the maintenance that you can't do when it's all submerged. As we know, water is very destructive on all of the water attractions, so it's no big deal to see one of these go down. Or a little something I was able to show everybody about this attraction last year when they were working on San Fransokyo is that it shares the exact same body of water over at San Fransokyo. Therefore, when one of these attractions needs to be drained, they can pump the water into the other one to have a pool to hold the water while they do whatever work they need to do. So if San Fransokyo's tide seems a little bit higher than normal, it's because it's currently holding all of the water from Grizzly River Rapids. Disney fully creating a way to hold all of this water to be able to work on attractions, to be able to do the maintenance they need to do, allowing Disney to create as little damage as possible on water conservation and the environment on a project that, if we're honest, this doesn't need to be here. So it's always nice when they err to caution to try to figure out a way to do it with as little environmental impact as possible. Now, we knew that Grizzly River Rapids was going down for construction, but I had no idea that this project was going to get this big and wrap over to the old airstrip. We can see that the restrooms are still open, as well as Humphreys, but it looks like a decent amount of exterior work is being done over in this area. Friends, if you look over my shoulder, you can tell that there is a new project that has popped up at the Hyperion Theater. It does appear that they are working on the back balcony, which hopefully is a good sign that they're back there painting and getting all this dialed in for the future return of Rogers the Musical, which was a smashing hit with 90% of theme park fans. I just made up that stat on my own, but it feels accurate. Rogers the Musical returning to DCA would be huge to put some entertainment back into the park. Tell the Lion King closed down just last week. Currently, there are no daytime shows and limited evening entertainment at the Disneyland Resort. So seeing Rogers the Musical return to the Hyperion would put some much needed life into one of the more dead parts of the resort, and more specifically of DCA. And trust me, friends, the irony is not lost on me that the Blue Sky Cellar Something that used to symbolize imagination and creativity now symbolizes corporate greed and the paywall. It couldn't be more of a different twist as what it once symbolized to what it will now become. And that is not lost on me, and I hope that it's not lost on you. Friends, over to my left, you see another one of those Disney projects where they're taking a quiet spot of DCA and transforming it into something that it was never intended for, allowing the park to evolve into what this version of Disney wants from Disney's California Adventure. This space that I'm in currently was originally the Blue Sky Cellar, and in a twist of irony, the Blue Sky Cellar was an area where guests could come in to see the blue sky imaginations and visions of Walt Disney Imagineering and how they wanted to transform DCA. But with this project and so many other projects that we're seeing happening around DCA and the Disneyland Resort, what we're seeing happen to the Blue Sky Cellar is it's being transformed into an upcharge for a different class system of Disneyland guests. This is going to become a DVC lounge. So the only folks that will be able to use this space moving forward will be Disney Vacation Club members, people that have invested heavily into the Disney Corporation by buying their DVC vacation points and have committed a lot of their family's resources to guaranteeing that they'll be spending a lot of vacation time with the company, and at the very least, a lot of money on their points. And I know that the Blue Sky Cellar is kind of a random offbeat spot. I use this a lot for filming because I love how the balcony gives you the most beautiful view down into Route 66. I also love this space as a meetup space because it's so incredibly removed from the park and doesn't create any congestion when you and a bunch of friends are getting together in this crow's nest that sits up above the performance corridor. It's just a small little subtle detail that most folks don't know, that it has one of the best paths ever as you walk up through the winery. It's a subtle part of the park that not everyone knows about, and soon only a few will be able to enjoy. Next to me is the Magic Key Terrace, where you have to have a Magic Key now to go on the upper deck of this restaurant, and soon this area will only be for Disney Vacation Club members. With the park tickets going up and up and up, with Genie Plus being flexible on how much it costs every day, trying to get as much money as possible out of guests, and with the Disneyland tickets themselves having different values for different guests on different days. We are seeing Disney fully try to maximize the amount of money that they can get from each of their guests. It is their company to run however they want, and taking Blue Sky Cellar away from most is not going to be noticed by all. However, for those of us that are paying attention, we can see that every time the park figures out a way to charge more for the same, they do it. For those of us that invest heavily in coming to the park with our time, our emotions, and our resources, it does start to feel a little bit gross, and you start to wonder, how much further will they go? What will they take away next? And what am I doing today that's free that will cost me a bundle in the future? This isn't a deal breaker. This isn't the worst thing ever. And in a world where it feels like society is crumbling, this is a very, very nice problem to have. But it is a conversation that I wanted to have with you as we're seeing Disneyland fully transform itself into you have to pay more to get more out of every little nook and cranny of the park. And this spot of the Blue Sky Cellar, this might not be your favorite little spot. You may have never even come here. But let me ask you, when is your favorite spot the next on the chopping block to become a part of something that you can't afford to do inside of a park where you've already bought your ticket, already bought your Magic Key, already paid for your parking, but you're told you haven't paid enough to do the next thing that you want to do? Would love to know your comments below and what you think about this getting turned over into a DVC lounge. I'm sure if you're a DVC member, you're excited and you do deserve more to do at this resort. I'm just looking at the overall landscape of the parks, not a shot at DVC whatsoever, more of a question about how we can expect things to evolve in the future, because the last couple of years have showed us a track record of people spending more to get basically what they already had. Rant over. A duck in the desert? Bro, you are ruining the forced perspective. And this is all we have left. Help us, Scary Gary. You're our only hope.